news. In fact, a lot of positive news today. Starting off with one of the top headlines on INFOWARS.com right now. Poll: double the amount of Americans think young black people doing better under Trump than Obama. That's right. Donald Trump is proving once again to be a very, very bad racist indeed. This is a new poll out of Rasmussen, and it's found that double the number of Americans think that young black people are doing better under Trump than they did under Obama. Now, if you look at these figures, it's pretty interesting because while 36% still say that life for young black people in America is worse, 32% said that it's got better under Trump compared to Obama. Now, you look at Obama's figures, compare this to Obama's figures from March 2014, where just 16% of Americans said that life had gotten better for young blacks under Obama. And by July 2016, this number had slumped to just 13%. So it was less than half under the Obama administration compared to the Trump administration that thought young black people in America were doing well. Now, people are going to look at these figures and say, oh, this is just racist, bigoted Trump voters saying that life is better for black people. How would they know? Well, no, that's not the case, because as Rasmussen reports, even black voters are nearly twice as likely, 28%, to say young black Americans are better off now than they were in the closing year of Obama's presidency, which was 15%. So no, it's not just Trump voters who are skewing these polls. Almost double the number of black voters say the exact same thing, that life has gotten better for young black people in Trump's America, Trump, the bigoted racist America, compared to Obama's America. Now, it's not really a big surprise, is it, given the economic numbers, given the black unemployment numbers? Now, of course, this is made even more impressive by the fact that, as we know, the mainstream media has been attempting to smear Trump as a racist bigot for the best part of the last 2 years. The Trump derangement syndrome has run rampant, even though Trump was largely seen before he ran as a Republican as very beneficial towards the black community, did a lot of charity work. He was even name dropped in numerous rap songs by numerous hip hop artists. He was seen as a friend to the black community before he ran as a Republican, and then he's a bigoted racist. He's literally Hitler. So again, we have this situation where, you know, Obama was brought in, he was heralded as the leader of a new era of positive race relations. And yet, what was going on when he left office? And in the year before he left office, we had the riots in Ferguson, we had the riots in Baltimore, we had the emergence of a Black Lives Matter movement that chanted for dead cops, that soured race relations across the board, that anointed as its hero, let's not forget, an actual cop killer, Assata Shakur, who was on the FBI's most wanted domestic terrorist list. So that was Obama's accomplishment. Unfulfilled promises. Trump came in, he offered and he delivered on his promise, which was, of course, mainly the jobs issue. As we saw last week, there's the Assata Shakur, who is still, by the way, a fugitive. They're still hunting for her. I think she was in exile in Cuba the last time anyone heard of her. Literally involved in murdering police officers, and that's who Black Lives Matter leaders invoke and worship at every single event. That's the great soothing race relations that Obama brought to America. Now, of course, last week we found out that black unemployment hit its lowest level since the government started to record the data in 1972. That black unemployment level now stands at just 5.9%. So again, Donald Trump is proving to be a very, very poor racist. In fact, we just had news about 10 minutes ago, which I tweeted. Breaking: noted racist Donald Trump to consider pardoning black woman Alice Marie Johnson, who was jailed for life for a first-time drug offense. Of course, this came as a result of the meeting with Kim Kardashian. Now Trump is considering pardoning Alice Marie Johnson. Remember, there was the famous boxer a couple of weeks ago that he also pardoned, again, another African American. So again, Donald Trump not performing too well in terms of being a racist. Of course, we had his meeting with Candace Owens and Charlie Kirk just about a week ago, following Kanye West's public praise for the pro-Trump activist. And again, what did the polls show after that? We had the report last month. Support for Trump amongst black males in the week after Kanye West praised Candace Owens doubled. It doubled. How big is that going to be as we approach 2020 with Trump going for re-election? Absolutely massive. And if these unemployment levels can remain as low or even lower as they've ever been, Trump is going to pick up more support amongst African Americans. Of course, he's never going to pick up anywhere near a majority of support because they're on the plantation and very much kept there, which is why they fear Candace Owens so much. In fact, today she tweeted that she's probably thinking about running for political office somewhere in the not too distant future, and that is going to absolutely terrify them because, as the polls proved, this is actually getting through to black people, specifically getting through to young black people. And now we see across the board, across America, and amongst the African-American community, they see life as being better for their community under Trump compared to under Obama, in numbers that are basically doubled. That is huge. That is massive as we head towards these midterms. Now, this is not in a vacuum. Let's not forget. Given their obsession with identity politics, the Democrats, the left, thought they would recover from the 2016 election. They haven't. Millennial support for Democrats is down 9 percentage points since 2016. They haven't picked up anything, and in fact, they've lost. They've lost their advantage in terms of the midterms. Remember, back in December, what was it? They had a 13-point lead on Republicans. Now you see Democrats losing support of millennials. We had, obviously, Owen earlier talking about Mad Maxine Waters and her handful of millennials that showed up for her event, which was specifically tailored for millennials. They had 10 people in that category show up. So their message just does not resonate. They were 13 points ahead. Who's talking about a blue wave now? Who's talking about a blue wave? Nobody. It's collapsed. Latest polls show the race for Congress is within the margin of error. And it's no doubt partly because of black Americans. Their lives have immeasurably improved, as have the lives of many, because of the economic numbers under Donald Trump. So this is going to be huge going forward. And what do the media have in response? Again, every single day, oh, the White House is in a constitutional crisis. It's either that or it's some bizarre obsessive distraction. Like now we have Melania Trump. She has a serious kidney operation, which other people have commented who've had similar operations. It's put them out of action for 2 months. She's been gone, what, about 3 weeks? I mean, she's appeared in public days ago. But now she's been gone from, public events where she's on camera for about 3 weeks. They've woven conspiracy theories about her, about Donald Trump, like being in a fight with her or her leaving the country. It's absolutely insane. Remember, these were the same people who said that we, in the case of CNN's Brian Stelter, were reckless conspiracy theorists because we pointed at Hillary Clinton as she coughed and stumbled her way through the campaign trail and said, maybe there's something wrong with her. Maybe she has some kind of health issue. We were reckless conspiracy theorists for doing that. Now Melania Trump has a serious kidney operation. She rests up for a couple of weeks. She's back in public life basically now. But they're still on with this crazy conspiracy theory that she's invisible, she's disappeared, or that Donald Trump got in a physical fist fight with her. We're conspiracy theorists, we're reckless for doing that with Hillary with actual evidence. When Melania has a serious kidney operation, oh, that's serious journalism to frame it, to talk about it in that context. Absolutely incredible double standards. We'll be back on the other side to talk about it more. This is the INFOWARS.com. We'll be back. We are back live on the fourth hour of the Alex Jones Show, talking about positive news today. Of course, I've just spoke about the poll where double the amount of Americans think that young black people in America are doing better under Trump than under Obama. We also have positive news out of Italy, which has the globalists very concerned indeed. We're going to go to that clip here in a moment. But first, I want to tell you about the Memorial Day blowout about this, because basically they don't want to. They're absolutely terrified of this populist wave sweeping the continent and where it could head next. Here is the truth about Italy.
In case you missed it, a political earthquake just hit Europe. An event that has the global elite truly terrified. In the most momentous challenge to the status quo in generations, Italy formed a populist government. Why does that matter? Because Italy's ruling populist left-right coalition is both anti-mass migration and Eurosceptic. If Italy's grand experiment succeeds, it serves as a template for the rest of Europe and a harbinger of doom for the survival of the European Union. If you doubt that, then just look at how EU Commissioner Gunther Oettinger reacted to the election, saying, quote, "The markets will teach Italians to vote for the right thing." In other words, technocrats will punish you for exercising your democratic choice. An astounding level of arrogance, but one that we've come to expect from the EU. But worse than this, the globalists actually attempted to install a former IMF director and Europhile as prime minister, completely overriding the will of the people who voted for the exact opposite. They've got the nerve to call Viktor Orban an autocrat when he was democratically elected in a fair fight, while literally attempting to institute a bloodless coup to overturn the results of a national election. Juncker has the nerve to tell Italians to work harder and stop blaming the EU for its problems, when Italy's economic problems only began after they joined the Eurozone. Before that, they were a powerhouse. If you doubt how much Italy's populist coalition threatens the European elite, just look at how two of its preeminent propaganda organs, the Financial Times and Der Spiegel, referred to what happened. The FT called the democratically elected coalition barbarians, while Der Spiegel said, quote, "Italy is destroying itself and dragging down Europe with it." Look at how George Soros reacted, spewing evidence-free conspiracy theories about Matteo Salvini being a puppet of Putin. Suffice to say, those globalist tears taste extra salty right now. While the new left-right coalition has numerous populist planks, the most important of which is undoubtedly its vehement opposition to mass immigration. League leader and Interior Minister Salvini has vowed to deport 500,000 illegal migrants. Salvini had a message for illegals during a rally on Sunday when he told them, quote, "The free ride is over, it's time to pack your bags." The incentive for migrants to reach Italy via the Mediterranean route, a suicidal venture promoted by Soros-backed NGOs and the European Union, will be eliminated. Instead of providing a taxi service for economic migrants falsely labelled refugees, Italy will crack down on criminal people smugglers and turn the boats back. Luigi Di Maio, leader of the Five Star Movement, has also suggested that GDP will no longer be seen as the primary indicator of economic growth. This represents a wholesale rejection of neoliberalism and a return to a kind of localist, high Tory-style protectionist view that rampant capitalism and corporatism has massively eroded communities and culture. This idea that monopoly capitalism has in fact harmed social cohesion, diluted and vulgarized culture, and corroded morality is one now taking root amongst increasing numbers of thinkers and influencers on the new right. Meanwhile, raise our people. The new government plans to address Italy's plummeting birth rate by boosting welfare for mothers and providing free childcare facilities. By upholding the country's Catholic identity and proposing to register and monitor mosques, the populist coalition is also showing its intention to reassert Italy's Christian heritage. Putting itself at loggerheads with the Pope, who has embraced a wishy-washy internationalist view of Islam, completely at odds with the fact that Islamism is an invasive, aggressive doctrine that threatens the very survival of Europe as we know it. The coalition also wants to end sanctions on Russia and work with Moscow on combating the common threat of Islamic terrorism, a vital policy that Trump attempted to pursue in America before he was hamstrung by relentless hysterical outbursts over Russian collusion. Italy's populist coalition has embarked on a policy programme that every other European country should be looking to mirror. The global elite will now attempt to portray everything that happens in the country as a manifestation of chaos and instability. In reality, the only chaos and instability is that which is currently consuming the dictatorial, arrogant, corrupt European Union as voters across the continent reject its arcane, discredited, Byzantine tyranny. Italy has said no to mass immigration, no to the EU, no to the erosion of its cultural birthright. And starting with Sweden in September, we can now truly begin to hope that the rest of Europe will follow the same course.
That is the truth about Italy. Absolutely monumental developments in Europe. And after the break, we're going to tell you how the Bilderberg globalists are reacting to this as they prepare to meet in, you guessed it, Italy. This is the Alex Jones Show live, INFOWARS.com. We'll be back. We are back. It is the fourth hour of the Alex Jones Show. Now, this election in Italy should be one of the biggest stories on the planet. We're talking about the first populist government in Europe for generations. This is absolutely huge. And let's not forget what they tried to do last week. Imagine for a second if, Donald Trump had won the election, which he did, and then the Electoral College said, oh, by the way, we're not going to let Donald Trump take his position in the Oval Office. We're going to give it to Hillary Clinton instead. Sorry, your votes mean absolutely nothing. That's literally what they tried to do in Italy. They tried to install this technocrat who was a former IMF official, a Europhile, until they had another election. The two winning parties, who were still arguing over how to form a coalition, didn't want that to happen. The Italian people didn't want it to happen, but the technocratic government simply said, oh, we're going to do it anyway. Thankfully, it didn't work. I imagine they would have had riots on the streets if they'd have tried to pull it off. But now we have an agreement. We have a platform, a policy platform, which, as I said in that video, should be mirrored across the rest of the continent. And we have the globalists running scared. Drudge report linked to this earlier. It is up on INFOWARS.com. Bilderberg globalists concerned about populist uprising in Europe. Don't take my word for it. Go and look at their agenda. It's number one on the list. The annual elitist confab is set to meet this week in Turin, which is an appropriate venue given that Italy has just elected an anti-mass migration Eurosceptic coalition government. Let's not forget, the promise made by Salvini is to deport, not only to stop migrants coming in, economic migrants who aren't real refugees, but to deport 500,000 illegal aliens already in Italy. That is an absolutely huge number, but he's promised to do it. Meanwhile, we have the EU, we have the globalists trying to punish all these different European countries by forcing them to take migrants when they don't want to. Italy has said no, Italy has rejected it, and now the Bilderberg globalists are not happy. What are they going to do about it? Well, what did they do about Brexit? Nothing, apart from try to derail it after it was already voted for, which is exactly what they're going to try and do again. Now, the list for the Bilderberg Group annual confab has been released. It has several high-profile individuals on it, has all the usual people that you would expect, but it's their agenda that's key because, again, this is always vague, it's always non-specific, but number one on the list, they're talking about the populist movement across Europe. So they're very concerned about what's happening in Italy because, again, it could be the example that could set the stage for the rest of the continent. So absolutely monumental developments, and nobody's talking about it. It should be one of the biggest stories on the planet now. Nobody's talking about it. Nobody was really even talking about it last week when they literally tried to have a bloodless coup and install a technocrat. Absolutely incredible situation. Now, you've probably seen the news about Miss America. Contestants will no longer be judged on personal appearances. That's right. Gretchen Carlson, who is now apparently the head of Miss America, has basically said that it's more important what comes out of their mouths. That's what we should care about. I mean, after all, it's not like this is a beauty pageant, is it? Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's a beauty pageant. These women are supposed to be judged on their attractiveness, on their physical appearance, on their beauty. That's the whole point. This is the depths of stupidity have not been plumbed until we saw this story today. I mean, we've had the stories about banning grid girls, the NFL discussing now banning cheerleaders, they're banning booth babes all across the Western world. Now, Miss America contestants will no longer be judged on personal appearances, but generally speaking, the kind of lame, overforced virtue signaling cliches that they can come out with, that's what they're going to be judged on, which of course will lead to women who aren't attractive, who are fat and ugly feminists, trying to take part in this and trying to win it. And some of them probably will win it if this is the new standard for beauty. Contestants will be asked to, quote, demonstrate their passion, intelligence, and overall understanding of the job of Miss America, which of course is completely dull and boring. Nobody will watch that. They've banned the swimsuit contest. They've banned the evening gown contest. Nobody is going to watch your stupid beauty pageant if it's not even a beauty pageant. You utter idiots. But again, we've seen this elsewhere, haven't we? We've seen it with the NFL, kneeling in front of the anthem. We've seen it in the award shows, the Golden Globes, the Oscars, where they've turned them into basically a mechanism to amplify cliched, woke social justice narratives. And how did Americans respond? How did they respond to the NFL controversy? They turned away in their droves. How did they respond to the Golden Globes? To the Oscars? Lowest ratings ever. This ain't going to work. They're literally committing suicide so they can have some kind of lame virtue signaling moment that nobody even cares about. The change to basically denounce everyone as guilty until proven innocent, to the point where now 25% of US millennial men think that asking a girl out on a date is sexual harassment. Yeah, how's that going to go? How's that going to go? With marriage rates already declining, fertility rates declining, people not having kids anymore, how's that going to work out for you? Carlson, who, by the way, was a very poor Fox News host, she's probably the worst one there, said, we've heard from a lot of young women who say we'd love to be a part of your program, but we don't want to be out there in high heels and a swimsuit. That's the point. So guess what? You don't have to do that anymore. Oh, okay. So why don't we apply this to everything? Why don't we say, oh, by the way, those long jumpers, you know, the long jumpers in the Olympics, we're not going to judge it anymore on how long they can jump. No, we're going to judge it on the kind of speech they give beforehand. We're not going to judge Olympic swimmers on how well they swim. We're not going to judge the 100 meters race on who gets to 100 meters the quickest. No, we're going to judge it on who can recite feminist slam poetry the quickest. This is the race to the bottom in terms of quality, and it's utterly, utterly stupid. But again, I've talked about it before. We had the grid girls, we had the booth babes, we had the cheerleaders going. Now this is going the same way. The whole point of Miss America is the enjoyment of objective standards of beauty, and that's what this is all about. It's about fat, ugly feminists. It's about far-left social justice warriors launching war on objective beauty standards because they literally think there's a giant patriarchal conspiracy which has been, you know, foisted on the world in coordination, in a conspiracy with the beauty industry, that these objective standards of beauty, you know, women who have an attractive face, have an attractive body, work out, are physically in shape, have certain hip to waist ratios, which again, scientifically proven to have objective standards of beauty. They literally think that's a giant conspiracy that people got behind closed doors and talked about for decades, and that's why men are attracted to attractive women. They literally think that. And this is the kind of intersectional insanity that is now ruining everything. They won't be satisfied until they've ruined absolutely everything. They won't be satisfied until their puritanical jihad against fun is complete. Now, as I write in the article, you know, what's next? Is, you know, Miss America, Miss? Sounds pretty transphobic to me. Why don't we have hordes of fat, hairy men? Why aren't they allowed to enter? Given that attractiveness is no longer an advantage, okay? You're saying that attractiveness, personal appearance no longer matters. Where are the fat, hairy men? I mean, maybe I can enter. And, you know, given that that's not a standard for victory, attractiveness, anyone can win. Absolutely anyone can win. So again, the intersectional nonsense that they've tried to inject into everything. You see it across the board. You see it in sports, you see it in Hollywood, you see it in award shows, you even see it in art, where now a piece of art isn't judged on its objective beauty or the skill or craft that went into it. It's judged on whether or not it has the right social justice message. They're turning everything into an amplification device for their narrative, for their insane propaganda, which fundamentally is an attack on the family and an attack on basic, normal biology. This is the Alex Jones Show Live. We'll be back after the break. INFOWARS.com. We're back. It is the final segment of the fourth hour of the Alex Jones Show. Now, before the break, we were talking about the Miss America contest. Contestants to be no longer judged on personal appearance. Now, the studio reminded me of this video that we have, which we're going to roll now, because it's very appropriate, given what Gretchen Carlson said to justify this move, where not only are they banning the swimsuit contest and the evening gown contest, they're saying that the contestants will no longer be judged on their personal beauty in a beauty pageant, but they will be judged on, according to Gretchen Carlson, what comes out of their mouths, because according to her, that's what we care about. So let's listen to what came out of the mouth of one beauty contestant. I think this was Miss Teen USA in this infamous clip. Let's roll it.
Okay. Recent polls have shown a fifth of Americans can't locate the U.S. on a world map. Why do you think this is?
I personally believe that U.S. Americans are unable to do so because some people out there in our nation don't have maps, and I believe that our education, like such as in South Africa and the Iraq, everywhere like such as, and I believe that they should, our education over here in the U.S. should help the U.S. or should help South Africa and should help the Iraq and the Asian countries, so we will be able to build up our future for our children.
Thank you very much, South Carolina.
Okay, so we're being told that we should judge beauty pageant contestants based not on their appearance, but on what comes out of their mouths. According to Gretchen Carlson, that's what we should care about. Well, that's what comes out of their mouths, and that's not the point, is it? Literally no one cares what comes out of their mouths unless they say something stupid, because we're not trying to find the next rocket scientist. We're not trying to find the next brain surgeon. We're trying to find Miss America, the most attractive woman. Of course, there are other categories, but the beauty, the attractiveness, the personal appearance has to be prime amongst them, given that it's a beauty pageant. And again, they say, oh, we need to provide good role models for young women. So provide those too. You can provide academic, you can provide intellectual role models for young women, as well as having beauty pageants. Those two things can exist in the same world, you utter morons. And again, the sum goal of this, the sum objective, the eventual consequence would be to take away opportunities from attractive young women who maybe aren't the most intelligent, but are intelligent enough to use their looks to get ahead in life. And why would anyone deprive them of that? America Twitter account, where they showed a bikini going up in smoke with the hashtag bye-bye bikini. Well, I don't know about bye-bye bikini. I think it's going to be bye-bye viewers for you, because the American people have spoken when you've tried to insert this lame, floppy, virtue signaling crap into everything else. They've rejected it time and time again. People are sick of social justice, of intersectional nonsense being injected into absolutely everything when they're trying to watch a football game, when they're trying to watch a beauty pageant, when they're trying to get away from politics for 5 frigging minutes, and they can't because you just keep shoving it down their throats. Bye-bye bikini, no, bye-bye viewers, bye-bye Miss America. Absolutely. Moving on, what's happening in the UK, we have another poll out of the UK today, which kind of relates to this. This is a headline out of Westminster. 66% of Brits think political correctness has gone too far. Every day now in the mainstream media, the talk is of being offended or something being banned. Back in the real world, though, Brits have had enough of BS political correctness that all too often stifles debate, comedy, and fun, and beauty pageants. Number-crunching politics polling firm CapX has found that 66% of Brits think political correctness has gone too far, only 9% saying it hasn't gone far enough. Now, these figures include 41% who say that it has gone much too far, and an additional 25% saying it has gone a little too far. So you're talking about the clear majority of the British people who think that political correctness has gone too far. Yet the point that this article makes, again, is it's that 9%, that hardcore 9% that's permanently offended over absolutely everything. They're the ones who the companies apologize to. They're the ones who create the mass mob outrage online campaigns to shame, to silence people into basically cowardice, rolling over, groveling, genuflecting to these idiots who don't have any real power, but just because there's a few of them and they're noisy about it, people cave, people back down. People need to stop caving and backing down to these idiots because they're nowhere near the majority. They're a tiny minority and they should be completely ignored. Now, over in France, we have a fake news law being passed. This is out of AFP. France's fake news law leaves media experts uneasy. France is the latest country attempting to fight the scourge of fake news with legislation, but opponents say the law won't work and could even be used to silence critics. Now, they're calling it an attempt by the government. This is actually what the government said. They're talking about manipulation of information in the run-up to elections, and they want to have the power to stop manipulation of information. Now, of course, that is so vague that it could be used blanket style to silence dissent, to silence alternative information, to silence scandalous information potentially about political candidates, about establishment political candidates. So we see this across the board. Of course, the EU is threatening to fine people who don't remove fake news within 24 hours. Facebook has had a system where people can flag fake news. It completely backfired. It only made that news go more viral. Now, of course, there are fake news websites that put out genuinely fake news. But what they're trying to do with this is apply it in a vague slapdash fashion. So again, it silences conservative content. And it's in the algorithm. I've said it over and over again. We're all slaves to the algorithm. The studies show that they can shift millions of votes prior to elections simply based on what search results come up first in terms of negativity and positivity towards a certain political candidate or a certain political party. I mean, I can barely even find news articles that I've written that I'm trying to reference while writing a new news article on Google because they've buried them in the algorithm so much. You can put in the exact headline into the search bar. You can put my name, you can put INFOWARS.com, and it still doesn't find it because they've buried INFOWARS.com in the algorithm. They're doing the exact same thing on Facebook. This is the war of the algorithm. This is what will decide future elections, and this is why, to some extent, these monopolies, which are not free market, need to be regulated, and people need to have an internet bill of rights. Now, speaking about Europe again, this is out of Breitbart. Dunkirk lorry driver stabbed by migrants trying to break into Britain. The lorry driver has been seriously injured by two migrants who were trying to break into his vehicle for a ride to Britain at the rest stop near Dunkirk. This was a Lithuanian who was taking a break after several hours of driving at a rest area in the town of Craywick in France when he heard noises in his truck. Basically, they ambushed him, they stabbed him, trying to get a free ride. Again, last week we had a story about female truck drivers being threatened with rape if they don't let these migrants get on board and sneak into the country. They raised the Calais migrant camp. They just went to different areas of France. They're living on the streets. Paris is basically an open-air migrant camp. They're saying, oh, you can just take over these parks. It's absolute bedlam. The Calais migrant camp itself is slowly coming back into existence. Again, they haven't dealt with the problem, which is why we need governments like the one in Italy, which has vowed to deport 500,000 illegals and stop this insane program of basically being a victim of the EU's threats and intimidation to forcibly take migrants, to forcibly erase their own populations. Absolutely incredible situation. Meanwhile, over in Sweden, municipal residents will pray for diversity on their own national day. This is the municipality of Falun, which celebrates National Day, basically Sweden's July the 4th, on Wednesday, but they've been told by the local municipality that instead they will be praying for diversity. Now, let's not forget that Sweden is a country who they appointed as the head of their National Heritage Board somebody who was a Muslim migrant who admitted that he knew nothing about Swedish heritage, and what little he did know about Swedish heritage was racist. Now, of course, Sweden is in the same boat as Italy to some extent. They've got a big election coming up in September. The nationalists, the anti-mass migration party, are doing really well, and we hope they have massive success. We hope they mirror the example, the fantastic example set by Italy. That's going to wrap it up for the 4th hour. War Room is coming up next. INFOWARS.com. Don't go away.